I'd like to call the meeting of the Lansing Charter Commission to order. This is our June 24th, 2025 meeting. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Adam Simon.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Bauer. Commissioner Boyd.
Here.
Commissioner Dowd. Commissioner Jeffries.
Here.
Commissioner Lopez. Commissioner Coe. Commissioner Washington. We have a quorum present. Commissioner Anderson and Lopez are absent for the moment.
Thank you. Motion would be in order to adopt the agenda. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, the agenda is adopted. And finally, we have a motion to approve the June 3rd, 2025 minutes. It's been moved and supported. Any changes, additions, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, the minutes are approved. We are at the time on our agenda for our presentation from our legal counsel. This is what we talked about at prior meetings regarding an overview of, as we move forward, what we can and cannot do as commission members as we take the charter revisions out to the public. And so, Kristen, I'd turn it over to you, please.
All right, thank you. And I do have a PowerPoint, so I'm waiting for it to get pulled up on the screen. Yes, it is on, but I can move it forward a little bit. There's also a copy of the PowerPoint in your packet to be able to review and take notes if you wish. So again, this is just an overview of the Campaign Finance Act and do's and don'ts in terms of moving forward into the November election. And the Campaign Finance Act really, its goal is to, and you can move into the next slide, its goal is to make sure that public funds are not used inappropriately for campaigning activities, and that's really what that act is geared toward, and then this talk is geared toward. So when we're talking about campaign finance, it's really prohibiting public funds from being used for contributions and expenditures. Now, both of those terms have statutory definitions in the Act, but when we're talking about a contribution, it really boils down to this when we're talking about a ballot question. It's a contribution is anything of ascertainable money value made for the purpose of influencing passage or defeat of a ballot question. And that anything of ascertainable money value can be very broadly construed. So it's obviously like actual cash money. It's property, real property, personal property. It could be loans, it could be gifts, even supplies, office supplies, intellectual property like a logo, for example, or services. So an individual's, time can be considered a thing of ascertainable value. Next slide, please. Along those same lines, an expenditure is when anything of ascertainable money value for goods, materials, services, or facilities is spent in the assistance of or in opposition to passage or defeat of a ballot question. So that's really what we're geared toward, making sure that we don't violate this act. And really when we're talking about what the rules are, it's different. The rules for the Charter Commission as a public body are different from what the rules are for an individual commissioner. So if we can go to the next slide. So we're going to start with what the rules are for the Charter Commission as a public body. And for your all purposes, it's a little more, this is a little more strict here. So if we go to the next slide. So this is what the commission cannot do under the Campaign Finance Act. You cannot use commission or really governmental resources or governmental property to expressly advocate a vote for or against a ballot question. And expressly advocate, that's a word in the statute there. It means to state support for the passage or defeat of a ballot question. And there are some specific statutory magic words. So you cannot have any thing that you purchase, like a sign or a mailing or anything like that, that says vote for, elect, support, cast your ballot for, vote against, defeat, or reject. But that's not all. Those are just examples of some of the no-no phrases. But really, it's very fact-specific, and your verb choice or your adjective choice can matter in terms of when the things that a commission can do, you really have to look at how it's worded. You're really looking for neutrality. So, next slide. So the commission as a public body cannot use public resources and government property to expressly advocate a vote for or against a ballot question. So that applies very broadly to all kinds of municipal resources. And again, that includes gifts or donations. So some, entity or person cannot give money to the commission to then go spend on express advocacy. That also limits your ability to use, again, broadly, any government property, which could be buildings, it can be computers, phones, stationery, staff, so actually using, city or municipal staff, intellectual property like a logo or even your email address can all be considered government property. So, and again, this is when the commission is acting as a public body. We have to be sure that if you're spending money, for example, on providing information, that it is not done in a way that is improperly using resources or containing language that is beyond neutral. If we go on and the other thing too, just before we move on to that, if you read through the statute for, fun, you may notice a provision within the Campaign Finance Act, and it's specifically Section 57, where all of these regulations are. There is a provision in there you may find that limits the ability to even disseminate any even factual information within 60 days before the election. I just want you to know that language is no longer good law. That was challenged in court, and a court struck that down. So it's literally, it's called a dead law. It's still on the books. It hasn't been removed, but legally it cannot function. So don't worry about that. If you have any questions, of course, you can always ask me. But if we move on to the next slide, this is what a commission can do, okay? So the commission as a public body is permitted to issue communications using public dollars if those communications provide factual information in a neutral manner about the election. So you can say the date of the election, for example, about the ballot proposal, so it is a revision of the charter, and then what impact the passage or defeat will have. And again, it has to be done in a very neutral way. You can provide information about a ballot question on the website, on the official public body website, in a mailing or a robocall, some sort of mass distribution of information, so long as it provides factual information that does not contain express words of advocacy. So you cannot say, vote for charter amendment. You can say vote. But even, and again, we've kind of put the prohibited words a few slides back, but it goes beyond that. So even, again, your verb choice of saying, a vote for this will improve the charter. Well, improve could be seen as a non-neutral word. So again, it's very fact-specific, and this is a situation where if the commission does decide to move forward with allocating some sort of commission resources to do an informational mailing or something along those lines, the recommendation consistently is always to have legal review for that to make sure that you don't run afoul of any of these laws. The other thing that Section 57 does allow is that a government body, a public body, can use public facilities and resources for public forums and public education on ballot questions, so long as the public resources are not used to influence the outcome of the election and views of all sides are treated equally. So you could have a forum, you could have a debate even, organized by the commission on a public property, so long as the availability is for all sides. So that is something you could consider, so long as things are properly followed. Now, interestingly, this is a little easy for you guys because you don't actually own any real property, so you'd have to get permission from some other entity that sort of owns the property, and you'd have to again look at making sure that resources are being, even sort of the gift or the ability to use the space is done in a manner that is not expressly advocating one way or the other. You had a question?
I had a question about that. So if we were to go back to the neighborhood meetings to have a forum about what we've done, that is allowed to do that? What you just said right there for that statement. As long as we just answer the questions, what we did or didn't do, not saying you must vote for it or not vote for it. Just having a quorum, basically, a discussion with the neighborhoods on what we have accomplished. That's allowed.
That is allowed under the Campaign Finance Act. Again, though, your language has to be very neutral. And there's always a concern with, it's a lot easier to write something neutrally and send it and think about it than, speaking off the cuff. We all sort of, once it's out there, it's out there. So that is a concern you have to keep in mind in terms of the information you're providing and how you're providing it. If it does need to be truly factual, if it's an event that's organized by the public body. But that is something that is permitted, and you do see other public bodies, for example, holding informational meetings on, for example, millages and things like that. So again, that is something that would be permitted. Any other questions just on commission rules before we get to commissioner rules?
Other questions? Nope.
Okay, we can go on to the next slide. So again, the rules are a little different for individual commissioners because you are elected officials. And because you are elected officials and individual human beings, you have more ability to make statements about the ballot. And indeed, under both the Campaign Finance Act and the First Amendment, you have the ability and the right to make any opinions that you want about the matter in any setting. But again, when you're doing it, you have to make sure that you're not using public resources to disseminate your opinions. So what you are allowed to do is you can provide factual information in any setting, totally okay. You can also provide your own personal opinion in any setting. So you can also spend your own money. You can use your own time to go out and campaign and advocate one way or the other, however you decide. You can also personally join a committee to campaign or advocate for one side or the other. That is permitted. But again, because you have your own First Amendment rights as individuals to make these determinations. So you are allowed to make those statements. But what you cannot do, and if we go on to the next page, you cannot use public resources or government property to expressly advocate for or against a ballot question. So in your advocacy for or against, if that's what you choose to do, you cannot use municipal office space, a municipal phone, a computer stationery, use of staff or government logos to provide and disseminate your opinion. So for example, if you were issued a phone by the city of Lansing, you should not be using that phone to do advocacy. That you should be doing on your own private phone. You should not be doing any advocacy on your city email account. That should be done on a private email account. Don't put any city logos on any documents that you send out because you're going to be hearing from the city attorney if you do. I'm quite sure of that. You cannot use any stationary and again, it's a little different because this commission is not quite like a city or a county where, there's an office and, sometimes people go raid the office and use a pen or whatever. We don't quite have that here, but again, these are the rules that apply is even stationary paper, things like that, that are purchased with taxpayer dollars are considered, it's considered an expenditure or contribution, so you have to avoid that. We also recommend that you should not represent your individual opinion as that of the entire commission. Remember, the commission as a public body speaks through its votes at an open meeting. And that's really the only way that the commission speaks unless you delegate something particularly. But particularly when it comes down to you advocating your own opinion about what should happen if you choose to do that. It's very important that you clarify, this is your opinion, not necessarily that of the commission. And we did just kind of develop a little language, if you'd like to use that on anything that you say or pass out, things like that. The other thing to keep in mind, and again, this could mean you could write a letter to the editor of a newspaper to say whatever you want. You can go and speak, you can go and have your 3 minutes at a public meeting saying whatever you want. That's permitted. You as an individual commissioner can, go to the restaurant in the morning, have coffee, and talk to whoever is there in the morning about, hey, did you know, this is going on, and you can say, can answer questions, you can say how you're going to personally vote, things like that. You can put information on your personal social media. Or on, again, your personal email, you can do an email blast with your own resources. When we talk about social media, if you are someone that uses social media a lot and you do intend to use your own personal social media to advocate for or against, or even provide factual information, I would strongly advise you to make sure that you are putting some disclaimers on your social media to make clear that this is a personal private account stating your personal private opinions. And the reason for that is first to make sure you don't have any campaign finance issues, but also you don't want to have anyone confuse your personal social media with something that is considered an official public website or social media. And that's really to avoid confusion of the people that are seeing it, but to also allow you to maintain personal control over your personal social media. You don't want anyone arguing it's a government site, because that is legal Wild West. Government social media, you don't want to be that test case. So highly recommend, if you choose to use your own social media, that you put a disclaimer that it is your own personal social media and it's your personal opinion. Again, you can go out to neighborhood meetings and you can provide factual information, you can provide your own opinion. Again, because the commission speaks through its own votes, it's sometimes portrayed as an ethics kind of rule, is just to say this is, it's not necessarily what everyone, voted for, or, this isn't necessarily how the public body decided or voted, or it's not necessarily the public body's opinion, but this is my opinion. And just make it clear so that there's no confusion and we don't have any campaign finance issues. So next slide, the key tips and takeaways. You cannot use taxpayer dollars to influence the election, and that is very broadly construed. So if you have any questions, give me a call. The commission can provide facts. Remember, neutrality is key, and highly recommend if the commission as a public body is deciding to send something out as a commission, that there be legal review to make sure that it is neutral. And then again, you as an elected official, as an individual, you may provide your own individual opinion so long as you're not using public resources and you're not using public resources to disseminate that opinion. And that's really the long and the short of it. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Commissioner Power.
So if somebody did write a letter to the editor, either pro or con, but can they put, Joan Bauer, Charter Commissioner?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so that's
Yep.
you can still do that, even though but you're not speaking for the body, actually. But it gets very confusing to the public. I mean, I think this is...
Yeah, I mean, so you, as an elected official, the Campaign Finance Act does say that you as an elected official are allowed to essentially engage in campaigning or electioneering. So, and you are allowed to identify what your public body role is. But again, that's also a situation where you may want to include this as your opinion, your personal opinion as a commissioner, not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily reflect the commission or all commissioners' opinions.
Commissioner Boyd.
And the key there is you can't use public resources. In other words, we could not sit here on public television and say we are for or against this proposal.
As a public body, I would not. As a individual commissioner, you are allowed, under the Campaign Finance Act, you are allowed to state what your opinion is on a matter. So, for example, but the law does permit you in a forum where this has already been convened. So, for example, I wouldn't convene a whole meeting just to, state that, but to the extent there's already business, and for example, at the end of the meeting, there's public comment or there's commissioner final remarks, you are technically permitted to state what your opinion is. And again, as long as this was sort of an already convened meeting, and I would say you're doing it in the capacity of your sort of commissioner remarks, then it is permitted under the Campaign Finance Act.
To follow up on that, if we do establish, like we did at the beginning of our chore here, where we went out and did 4 meetings in the public, and we utilized resources of the commission as well as other private resources, but public resources. At those meetings then, is it still permissible to state a personal opinion during those meetings?
It gets a little dicier there. I think in terms of sort of 2 things. Again, the information you are providing, I would make it very clear to the extent that you're doing that there's kind of like a meeting like we have here, is that there's an informational point in time, and that you are providing information, you're very clear and very deliberate in the factual, neutral information you provide. But you are allowed, for example, to have a debate. So as long as all sides of an issue generally have the ability to have access to that space, for example, and are all treated equally, it is permitted. Again, it gets a little more difficult in that situation, but the Campaign Finance Act does permit that.
Other questions? Commissioner Bauer?
And it would permit, if we would decide to do some kind of informational guide to the charter and lay out the changes or the charter changes, the commission could do that, spend public money to print that, put it on the website. I'm just concerned, people are really going to need to know. I'm already having people ask me, well, how am I going to know what is even in it? So could we use public dollars to, again, in public, on the website, as long as we were very careful, had it reviewed by our legal counsel, to be sure that it was not promoting a yes or no vote, but that it was informational?
Yes, you are permitted to do that. You can, again, purely factual about what the changes are. You can put in fact, it may already be on there. You can put the final work product, because that's a public document, on there, and you can provide a summary of what the differences are for review, again, as long as it's purely factual. And you can spend money, for example, to do a mailer or like a robocall. But again, purely factual. You can post information like this on the web page for the commission. What you can't do, for example, though, is allow any old person to put all of their links for, like if a committee is formed of, vote no on the charter or vote yes on the charter, you don't want to put any of their documentation on the actual public resource.
Other questions? Okay, so obviously you'll be available when more questions do arise and when we do have something put together that we're going to do for review.
Yes, yep.
Okay. All right. Okay, moving on. On the agenda, item number 6, public comment. No? Brina's here, but no comment. She'll pass. All right. All right. Move. Oh, good move. Item number 7 on our agenda is officer reports under the chair report. Just want to talk a little bit about how we're going to be moving forward We've got, as you all know, you've received communications. We've sent all the documents to the governor as well as the attorney general. And Kristen, do you have any updates? Did you make any contact with those folks?
I have to fall on my sword. I did it very late, so I have reached out. I do know at least one of the attorneys that have been assigned it. I'm waiting to hear back, but I can certainly forward you the information. You are all able to receive information. You just can't deliberate about it over email. So I will let you know when I hear back.
All right, thank you. But as you recall, when we had our prior discussion, that we're looking to hopefully get some response back by no later than the first week of August. I think it's August 8th or 12th that we have to get the information certified over to the clerk for the November election. So that's kind of the drop dead date that we're looking at. Between now and then, I want to say it's August 12th, somewhere around there. Pardon me? We have to, the city clerk has to certify the ballot language that we have passed in our resolution by that date. That's the drop dead date that it has to get to the city or to the county clerk to be able to get it onto the November ballot. So that's what we're shooting for.
If I may, according to the Secretary of State information, that would be August 12, 2025,
August
4 p.m.
Okay. Yep. And so between now and then, I'm not sure how many meetings we're going to have because we're kind of in a wait-and-see situation. But looking down the road, I think we were told that by September 22nd is when the absentee ballots are going to go out. So
September 25th.
September 25th.
September 25th is when at least 22,000 ballots are going out. Since those are how many people are on the permanent ballot list, they get that ballot for every election.
Okay. So working back from that, we certainly want to, if we're going to hold any public hearings or any public sessions, to have those completed before then. I think we have to have some idea of what we're going to do if we're going to do a mailing. We do have some information on the budget, and I would ask that the clerk's office, pull together what a mailing may look like in terms of costs and figure out, and we can come back and have that discussion and kind of put together what our plan is going to be in terms of getting that information out to the public. And I guess, Brian, I would ask, do you have some information on the budget at this point?
Yes, so the budget at this point, we have remaining over $276,000. Remaining, it may be a little bit less because a few bills in the last month have not been processed yet.
Okay.
So 274,000 is probably a really
Pretty good number.
Pretty,
Okay.
pretty good number to have available.
Question, Mr. Deputy Clerk, the money that we don't use, what happens to that?
The money would go back into the general fund is my assumption.
Okay,
That's what happens in all our budgets when we don't spend it.
okay.
It goes back.
Is that the city clerk's general fund,
Yeah.
or is that the?
No, there's only one general fund, and that's the whole
All right.
city
Just
for all that money goes into, so, yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. In terms of the funding thing, we had a discussion today with Commissioner Boyd, and we were talking about, well, what happens, if this doesn't pass in November, and looking further out, we still need to have resources available to be able to conduct meetings after that, as well as looking at what another election. I don't think there'll be an election cost to the commission because we will align with whatever existing election is out there, but that also has to be put into the mix in terms of some planning. Commissioner Kui?
The question I had was, it looks like we only have, maybe a 6-week window to schedule those meetings with the neighborhoods? Or have we already started getting dates?
No, we wanted to have this discussion with you folks tonight, and then based on this, we could go out and start looking at places and see if we can get something put together.
Okay.
Madam Vice Chair, and then Commissioner Boyd.
Mr. Deputy Clerk, we are allotted 90 meetings. Where are we now?
That's a good question. I do not know.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Boyd.
It would seem to me that we should have informational meetings for the public. And I would recommend that we follow whatever format we followed for initial meetings. Maybe go back to the same locations and have a meeting at this venue. So I would think that we would do that. I would think also that we should conduct these meetings after Labor Day, but before the end of September. Now, I know the ballots go out on September 22nd, but, you know, you have mail time, et cetera. And we could ask the clerk's office, Brian and Emery, but I doubt that many people fill out the ballot the minute they get it. They might do it within a week.
There's some do.
I don't know. I don't. I always wait. But at any rate, I would think after Labor Day, but before the end of September, we should have those meetings. And the sooner the better, because I personally have plans in September, and I want to make sure I'm available for the meeting. So as soon as we can get those on the calendar, I think we should. I also think that we should have something on the website that talks about the charter and the changes we have proposed. That is going to take some time to do. And I think that, you know, barring that we're going to have significant input from the AG and the governor's office, I would think that should start now. And I don't know if the cost of doing that goes against the 275 that we're talking about as remains in the books.
You mean in terms of the development of the website piece?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. But I do think that the website needs to happen, and I think it needs to be available quickly. I would say, you know, I think our meetings should be after Labor Day, but I think as soon as we have it available on the website, after we've heard from the AG and the governor's office, it should be on the website.
Madam Vice Chair.
And I say that also for the reason that people may come to community meetings having looked at the website, hopefully, and know what we have proposed, and they may have questions about why we proposed what we did.
Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair, can you make it clear that because of the governor reviewing the charter as well as the Attorney General, they don't have to approve it, correct?
That's correct.
They just review it,
It-
so we can move forward without their approval,
And they have to make sure that we haven't violated some,
some law.
Correct. And we did have a discussion prior to the meeting beginning. It's approval, most likely approved as to form. I mean, the substance that we have there, I think, is going to remain. So if there's some issue with, you know, any incompatibility or other form issues, that would be most likely what those objections would be. So what I'm hearing from everybody here tonight, in terms of, you know, maybe getting another meeting close to around the 1st of August set, coming back to that meeting, I think everybody would like to have some idea of when those public forums would be, when and where they would be. And we are looking at, this is just what I'm hearing, 4, similar to what we did when we started this thing, and then 1 here in City Council, so there'd be a total of 5. We would want some website development. I would suspect that we would have the budget information at that point and would be able to make some decisions as to how we would spend money in terms of mailers and other things. And if we're looking at that, maybe have a draft piece of a mailer put together for our consideration at that time. How does that sound to everybody? Are we hitting the marks, Commissioner Boyd?
that sounds good. I would like to ask that the clerk's office provide us with a recommendation or an estimate on costs. For example, and again, I think our big unknown is what happens if this fails, because we will have another year. Do we just say we're not going to do anything? Do we decide we're going to do something? Is there a poll that's going to be done that says why people voted the way they did? I don't know any of that. But I think there are some things we know. For example, if we have to reconvene in 2026, what does that look like? I would think that we would have to meet sometime between January and the end of May, because again, with the, whatever we do or don't do would have to go before the governor and the AG. And maybe we would have meetings like we did now, where we met on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. So we might have a total of 10 meetings. My point being, we should have an outline of what our costs could be post-election, so that we know, like, we have 275 in the bank now, but we know that there's a chance we might need this much money in 2026. So how much money do we really have? I think we need to know that.
Okay. We can look at that. Are there other issues that you want? Commissioner Bauer?
Well, and I'm also thinking that we might begin getting, I hope we do really, some requests from groups, like, to come out and speak. I'm thinking of Rotary, for instance, that they might want to know, those are many, many people who have a big stake in our community, who are curious. Now, at least half of them don't live in the city, but they would still be very curious about what's happening. So I just think we need to think ahead. If we start getting those, how do we handle that? Who's our spokesperson? And again, we have to be very new. It would be a neutral informational session. Maybe we even need, well, I won't get ahead of
And to
myself,
that-
like a PowerPoint setup, that you could take out.
Commissioner Boyd?
And to that point, not only do we have to identify who the spokesperson would be, who would be authorized to go out and speak on behalf of this commission, but also we need to have a template for what those remarks look like. And I think they would have to come before this commission and be reviewed, and especially be reviewed by our legal counsel as well.
Okay, anything else? Commissioner Lopez?
Thank you. I think we need to have a document that has the changes, proposed changes, and put that out in the community. I think it's already mentioned. But I think a mailer, just to encourage people to vote, then I think we could have 4 meetings like we did initially, just for people to come and ask and have a conversation with the commission. I think there's going to be enough people on both sides doing propaganda either way, and I call it propaganda. But I think you're right. I think we need to also have a website and have all this information available to the public. And again, this is, I don't know how much pull this election of the charter commission the charter is going to have in the community. I would imagine it's going to be low. So, but I think that it would be our responsibility to have information for them, should they ask for it. I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of money, but, with one mailing and community meetings, if they come, they come. If they don't, they don't, but it'll be available.
Deputy Clerk Jack.
Thank you. At first, this is the 38th meeting, by the way. If you go to the website now, with only paying for our intern to update it, we have the current charter with all your proposed changes. They're up there right now. We also have the red line version so people can change, see what changes have been made. So changing the website in itself there's not a cost to that. On our current city page, if you wanted other URLs and other promoting it and pushing it out, there are costs with that. So that pushing people to actually get to the website with accurate information. So on that piece of it. In terms of the mailer, I think to order to have something ready by early August, we're going to need some authorization from the clerk's office of spending money to hire graphic artists, a graphics firm. That's not in our expertise. We run elections. So in fact, the designing of the last piece was done by Commissioner Anderson. So, so it was actually, it was done in-house in that design. So that's the other point I want to make sure we're aware of at this time. And then what you have in front of you is something that is an example that has been vetted by legal review as not determined to be promote or against the proposal, but an idea of what some basic language that could be put out. And we're, have further, in the agenda can speak further on that. But there is like information, here's an example of, information that could be disseminated now, whenever you, feel comfortable in the language with that and having legal review.
Commissioner Bauer.
This is excellent. Who put this together?
It took a village.
No, I mean, I'm commending, this is exactly what I would want to see if, as a voter. And I might recommend that all of us take a look back through the changes and see if there's anything else we think is a major change. But this, I think this really is.
And if you flip to page 2, there are the other changes that we weren't sure, we didn't quite feel from consensus between the chair, staff, of other things that may move up to that. So you have page 2 are additional change of interest, but maybe aren't major. So be interest, in what, in that category as well. But but certainly more review and more eyes to make sure we captured all the substantial changes.
Commissioner Boyd.
It's a great job, except do you put current charter first, or do you put proposed charter first? I just raised that point. That wasn't really my question. My question was, when we did our mailing in the fall of 2024, approximately how much did that cost? I know we had a debate as to whether we were sending it to every house or just voting houses, and I think we sent it to every house. So if you were a dilapidated house and you had nobody living there, you still got a mailer at your door. And so my question is, how much did that cost us? Does anybody know?
Give us a few moments to look through our minutes, and we'll probably have an answer for you soon. That was about 50,000 according to Emery. 15,000. That's why I got to repeat it to make sure everyone. 15,000.
Commissioner Lopez.
Since we moved to change from 7 to 9 council members, we also did some work on the boards and commissions, and we had 8, but now we have 9. Did we make that change in the for all councils and commissions? But we have 9 commissioners. We have 5 boards and 4 at large. I'm sorry?
We voted to keep it 8.
At 8
At 8,
for the board?
yes.
I
Boards and
thought we
commissions.
did that initially because it was 7. I don't
And
know that we had a
kept it at
discussion
8,
for
went
the
to
9.
7 as well.
I don't recall that. We did?
Yes.
Well, then one ward is not going to be represented then, or somebody.
Commissioner Washington.
Brian, I have a question for you. When was the last time?
Which Brian?
You.
Okay.
When was the last time Lansing voters voted no against an initiative or a millage or a bond or anything?
Well, I worked on some school millages that went down that are still
Yeah.
deep in my heart of pain, but I don't remember the exact date of that. I tried to block it out, but I don't know the history of, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the only thing I can think of. Lansing voters vote yes on everything, so I don't think we have a lot to worry about.
And Vice Chair.
I just to note, the first, in the 1978 charter, did not pass on the first round. First two rounds. So the first, in 1978, it did not pass for the first two rounds. Well, but that's the last time we had a charter. So that,
Okay. Other questions? Have we hit the marks? It sounds like we might want to come back earlier than the first week of August. Why don't I, excuse me, why don't I put, let us get together, figure out the timing on some of this stuff, when we can get some of the stuff done and get it back to everybody. So it might be closer to like mid-July or maybe the third week of July. Do we want to set a date? Well, let's, the 22nd? Still, what's really important here? Just kidding. Let's see. I mean, we could do it the 29th. It's getting a little bit late. Earlier? You want to do it the, let's see. It'd be the 15th? July 15th? Is that good for everybody? All right, so we'll schedule our next meeting for July 15th. And we will try to get as many of these items put together with the information that we need to bring back so we can make some decisions at that point. Brian?
I would request if we could get a resolution, give us approval for up to 5,000 to have a graphic artist so that we can take, if this is something that people, and we can talk more about this, kind of give comfort to a graphic artist, because we need to
Get that going.
hire, yeah, that's could take some time and draft, so you actually have a draft. And that would need money, that I assume we would need authorization to spend to have a graphic artist.
So you would like that motion made here tonight?
If that's the only way I can spend money, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if that's required to spend money, but we need to be able.
Well, why don't we make it just make it not mandatory, but let's, if that doesn't work, that there will be monies available so we can still keep the ball going, but we can check with Commissioner Anderson. So is there a motion for that? It's been moved and supported for 5,000 up to?
Yeah, we don't need to bid for over 5,000, so that way we can pick,
Got it.
we can
Okay.
find someone to move things along.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes.
Thank
Is
you.
there anything else you need?
Well, I need a,
Going back to the same.
well, the same. I would suggest absolutely doing the same, but we did skip a community last time. We skipped a community last time, and I can't remember, it was,
We didn't have a meeting in Ward 1. but
Ward
we
1.
met with East Side, which
Right.
represents people in Ward.
right, but that was a complaint from that community.
Okay? All right. Is there anything else on this item? Okay. Brian, are you done with your report?
oh, I would think in completing a report, if there's anything, other information for our website, if we're comfortable with this initial document to be on the website, or is there any feedback? I'm not sure how I want to provide feedback, but if this is permissible to have on there, that would be helpful direction to the clerk's office.
Commissioner Boyd?
I was being a bit facetious, but I would like to ask the question now. If this is used, should it have the current charter first and then the proposed changes? Or should I have the proposed changes and then the current charter? Personally, I think it should be, the charter as it exists should be first, and then the proposed changes should follow.
Does it, Commissioner Dowd?
I love this. I think it is important to, I think the second page is just as equally as important. I highlighted some areas that I think are, like, they were not in the current charter, and we're adding them, and I think that is important. Particularly as it relates to the access to boards and commission applications. I think that's important for the community because we talked a lot about making sure that that was transparent in our new charter language. So I think these additional changes of interest, I would add all of this. I think that, in my mind, that helps just clarify more things for everybody.
Commissioner Boyd?
I think one thing on the third item under the Board of Water and Light, it said the Board of Water and Light General Manager shall meet with the public 4 times a year. I think we amended that to say the general manager or his or her designee should meet with the public 4 times a year. So I think this needs to be fly-spec to make sure that it's accurate. Thank you.
Okay, we can look at that. Commissioner Dowd, I'm sorry. Did you want to move these up? I'm trying, well,
I think add all of them in there, yes. Is that what you're asking? I think Brian had alluded that these were not decided whether or not they would be included in like the top changes, and I'm suggesting that both pages be all one, include them all.
so you don't want a distinction between major changes and changes of interest?
And maybe I misunderstood that what we're hearing from the clerk's office was that there wasn't consensus whether or not these ones on the second page were really important enough to stay with the document, or just
No.
were important enough to be on the major. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Then I like it all.
Okay, all right.
I misunderstood.
All right, Commissioner Bauer.
And I have a very minor, I wouldn't put, NA not applicable. I would spell something out, because I think there are people who wouldn't know what that meant. Just saying it's not in the, you know. No, it doesn't mention it in the charter, just a,
Yeah.
rather than
Okay.
NA. That's just a
Okay.
suggestion.
Other suggestions? So I guess, Kristen, I'd ask you, if we're going to go back and forth, maybe get some of these changes here, can we do that without violating the Open Meetings Act? If there needs to be some communication? Like if we made these changes, sent it out to everybody and said, we good to go with this, is that going to be an issue?
Trying to think if that's really a decision. I really don't see that as being an issue because this isn't really a policy. It's just developing the document that you're gonna make public anyway. I would not do a whole email chatter, all group discussing about what it needs to be because then that's different. But again, consistent with how you were sort of bringing proposed changes when you were working on the charter, funnel it all to the chair, and then that can all be incorporated and put out. And then if there's an issue, then maybe we need to look at it. But I have a feeling most of this is all just going to be factual and just double checking everything, so I don't see that as being an issue.
So why don't, let us work on this, we'll put them together. I'll send out an email to everybody if you want to respond to me then. I think, would that work? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, is there anything else on this? Okay. And
No, that concludes the clerk's report.
Okay.
Thank you.
we're down to public, I'm sorry, Commissioner Kui.
Just for clarification, are we going to keep it just like it is with the new changes first? And-
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Are you starting a fight?
I'm not trying, I just want to make, I didn't know if we voted on that or not.
We didn't vote. so.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right.
I do have new glasses. No.
Okay, we're down to public comment. Rena, you still out? Okay. All right, commissioner report, remarks? Anybody, anyone? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.